Here.
It's your turn now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, I have really enjoyed listening to everyone. I am so honored to be part of this group, and I'm so thankful that we were all able to come together and really share our voices. And I've learned so much about you as individuals, and I've learned about our strength, and I feel positive about our futures. And I say that to say this. I was diagnosed much later in life. I actually received my diagnosis after my son, and that was a journey in of itself. I did a lot of research on the subject, and I found myself to be falling in despair. So I made a decision one day to stop reading about autism, to stop reading what the researchers had, stop listening to what people had to say, and I started focusing on what it was like to live as an autistic person. And not only live as an autistic person, but raise a person who's autistic. So the way that I do things and the way that I raise my son are very much different from the majority. And that's what I'm told. My son has been receiving services since he was 3 months old. So we've had a lot of really good people in our lives, and I've got a lot of really good feedback about the way that I raise him. One of the things you oftentimes hear people say about people that are autistic is that, they don't want, they don't know how to connect, they don't look at each other, they don't talk or whatever, and my son is nonverbal. But what I discovered is that language, the beauty of language is that it's not one thing. It's not just talking, it's not hand signs, it's everything. Every part of us is part of our language. And every part of us can resonate with another person. We don't have to be in close proximity to feel connected. And I ended up being a single parent unexpectedly. My husband left when my son was 9 months old. So trying to work and trying to deal and trying to take care of a child who had a lot of health issues was very difficult. And my child, also I wanted to raise him to be a child that could tolerate affection, because that's something that I myself had struggled with. So even though he had trouble with it, I made it a point to hold him 5 minutes a night, every night, just to hold him and put him down until he got used to it. And he got used to the affection. But then as he got older and healthier, I was able to work. So I wasn't able to put him on my lap and read to him all through the day. So what I did was I memorized his children's books. And as I worked around the house, he would crawl over to the basket where the books were. And if I could see the book it was, I would recite the book while he turned the pages from anywhere in the house. That was the way that we could connect. And he always felt connected to me no matter what we were doing. Later on in life, sometimes he would play music. I could be working right now and I could hear him in the den listening to a movie, and he'll play a song over and over again as a cue for me to sing. So then I'll start singing, because that's how we interact. We don't have to be in the same room. And for those who were here earlier today, who might have seen him walking by, if you can see right behind me, he's got a couple of his stuffed friends, 3 of his Teletubbies. This is his way of participating in what I'm doing. He sees all the faces, he knows I'm talking to people, and he wanted to be a part of it. But he knows he doesn't have to be present to be a part of any and everything that I'm doing. So I say that to say this. Being a person who comes from a background of human subjects research, one of the things that I realized the most about research is that research has a very narrow view. There's only but so much we can look at in terms of the variables and things that people want to know about. So when we look at things, when we read the books and we hear commentary and we hear what professionals are saying, it's very limited. Our life experience is rich, and we need to speak that thing from a point of our knowing. We don't have to get our language from the books that we read. Our language is internal, and our language is always there, whether we're speaking it, acting it out, or writing it down. It doesn't really matter. Another thing that I find also with parents with the COVID and having to bring their children home, one of the biggest things is that the children are not used to being home with the parent all day, and the parent's not used to being home with the child all day. And one of the things I usually preach to parents, especially parents of children that are autistic or have intellectual disabilities or severe disabilities, children get accustomed and they grow to trust you in certain areas. And single parents, we wear a lot of hats. The first hat I wore for my son was I was nursemaid, doctor, chauffeur, you know, all those things. But when it came time for me to teach, he didn't trust me. He didn't know me as a teacher, and he fought me on it. So I had to sit him down one day and say, I want to show you so many amazing things. Will you allow me to earn your trust in this and let me teach you? And he allowed me to teach him. So in every step and everything that I do for my son, I take the time to explain to him, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to show you. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. Trust me. So when children are used to going to school, and they're used to their parents being their parents and cooking and cleaning and whatnot, and they come home and the parents have to teach them, that child has no reason to trust the parent, because the parent hasn't taken time to earn the trust in that capacity. So if you're struggling with your children and you're trying to get them to get used to a new norm, first sit down with them and say, this is what's going on. I have to take this new role with you. I want to teach you, and I want to grow with you, and I want to be able to survive this thing with you. Allow me to help you and trust me. Okay, and I trust you that you're going to do your best, and we're going to get through this together. If we take time to talk to each other, if we take time to understand each other's language, if we take time to stop trying to discipline our kids because of the behavior, and take more time to actually try to understand what they're saying, because their behavior is part of their language. And if we see it as language, we spend less time getting angry, less time being frustrated, and more time trying to figure out, hey, what's being said here? What's going on? Wait a minute, is something wrong? You know, because when my son self-harms, I'm not going up saying, stop doing that, don't do that, what are you doing to yourself? I stop and say, okay, something's going on with him. I palpate his gut because he has a lot of gut issues. He might be, you know, impacted in his colon. I check to see if maybe something else is hurting with him. I check to see maybe if he hasn't had enough sunlight, if he hasn't had enough outings, if I haven't given him enough attention, if he feels that, you know, he's not being taken care of. What is going on that makes you do this thing? And I hone in on it, change it, and when I do, the behavior stops. So when I go out to talk about autism, when I talk about being an autistic person, when I talk about mothering an autistic person, you're not ever going to hear, well, rarely you're going to hear anything from a book from me, because I'm going to tell you from a very lived perspective, a perspective of living as an autistic person before knowing. I wasn't diagnosed until I was like 46 years old, and I'm 54 now, so I haven't known that long. But I've been autistic my entire life, and I've had to cope my entire life. And I come from a situation where I was raised by two parents who were very abusive. So when it comes to coping and dealing right now, this is kind of like a easy breezes for me, because it's just another layer of coping. I've had to cope every day of my life with the uncertain. I've had to cope. I didn't know from one moment to the next when I was going to be yelled at, when I was going to be beaten, if I was going to be raped. I had no idea from one day to the next. So this pressure cooker of constantly being on guard taught me how to weather situations like this. So when things like this happen, it's just a matter of, okay, what do we need? What do I need? What does my son need? So we can have the best mental health in the situation. And then I proceed to make that thing happen. So when I talk to people, thank you. When I talk to people, I want to talk from a place of positivity. You guys are so strong. I don't know if you realize how amazing you are. I don't know if you realize how amazing your journeys are. I hope people really, really start paying attention, because there is so much they can learn from everybody in this room and everybody who's living this life. Don't ever stop talking. Don't ever stop writing. Don't ever stop sharing, and always do it in love. There's no need to be angry or frustrated. We just keep talking, because somebody is listening. I promise you that. And that's what I have to say today. Thank you so very much, everyone, for having me.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
I've learned so much. I've learned so much tonight. It's, you know, you can see me sitting here like this because I tend to work with young people that are displaying the behaviours and the schools or parents don't understand yet. And so the more I understand real life experiences, the more I can take that into what I do as a youth worker. So this for me is school, you know, and these are some of the world's best speakers in one place. So I'm really, I am so blessed to actually be in this room tonight. And it just continue, like you said, keep talking, you know, keep talking and I'll keep learning, and people need to learn. It's amazing. It really is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not saying no more because Jackie knows me already. So I'll send out her video to everybody who didn't see it the other day.
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you.
I'll send it out. The next person we're going to bring on is Jesse. Jesse has, as I said, been one of my volunteers, speakers. He stepped back a bit for many reasons, I'm sure he'll tell you. And then we have TJ Val after. So Jesse, platform is yours.
Jesse, you're on mute.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Jesse McQuilkin. Simply because I have 10 minutes, I have actually written a statement on my phone while I was listening to everyone. So this is pretty much what I've got to say, right? Obviously during previous events, there's been a talk of Black Lives Matter, right? What I want to say is I agree with the statement, but I don't agree with the movement. And why I say this is I will start believing when Black Lives Matter, when black on black death stops happening, when disrespect of Black women in music stops happening, the tearing of each other, right? And the lack of strong family units and Black single parent households. And we have to learn to basically love ourselves as well. We need to stop with the self-hatred, right? Another thing I want to say is I have walked away from the autism community and the Black community, right? And the reason why I say this is I feel very useless in the Black community because I have an intelligent mind, but those things are not embraced, right? My mind is not embraced by the Black community. Another thing I want to say is you would rather embrace the rappers, the comedians, the athletes, the celebrities, and the musicians, but you won't embrace the intellects, the problem solvers of the Black community. What I also want to say, why I left the autism community is because of the racism, the systematic racism within the autistic community and the lack of Black support. And I appreciate the non-Black support as well and the people who have gave me the opportunities to speak, right? The constant false promises. I remember the day when I had to go to Tooting Leisure Centre and announce that I had to step away from my speaking engagements and seeing Vanessa Bob cry. I'm about solutions. I'm about accountability. I'm not just about talking. Thank you to the people who gave me a chance to speak. And the people I want to say is thank you to Vanessa Bob. Thank you to Ken Greaves. Thank you to Paul McKenzie. Thank you to Shamika. And I also want to thank the organization Generate for pretty much helping me through pretty much halfway through my life. I also would like to thank the people who have helped me, Jasmine Harts, and also Raquel Matters, Max Green, Annalise Bolger, Marguerite Hay. These are the people that I thank a lot for giving me a chance and help me from basically feeling useless, right? I also want to talk about the government and the benefits, right? The cutting of the benefits. This is what I've seen during COVID-19, the cutting of the benefits. My benefits have been cut, even though I'm autistic, and I'm tired and sick of the neglect that the government has been doing for autistic people all over the world, not just in the UK, right? Why are we being reassessed every single time, having to go to the job center when autism is a lifelong condition, right? The other thing as well is I already know 2 autistic individuals who have already, right, who have already committed suicide, and I will never meet those people again because they have been cut off the support and the benefits that they are entitled to and what they deserve, right? Also, the lack of the lack of, in the briefings of the government, Boris Johnson, your Dominic Cummings, all of them. I haven't heard anything in these briefings talking about how they're going to help disabled people versus lockdown and COVID-19. The people I feel sorry for the most in the UK and the whole world is the homeless and the disabled. Those are the people I feel sorry for the most, because their voices are not heard and they're being neglected, right? The mixed signals regarding social distancing. I know someone who's very, very close to me. Their daughter basically went off to a block party, right? And I completely understand why she went to that block party, because of the mixed signals, telling us to wear face masks, telling us we should go to work, telling us that, oh, we got to be 6 meters towards each other, letting essential workers go to work. What type of messages is the government sending us, right? We're autistic out here, right? People sitting around comfortable. It's time to make people feel uncomfortable, the people up there, right? I'm tired of the disrespect. I'm tired of the people not calling back. I'm tired of the people lying to me. I'm tired of people lying to the autistic individuals, and I'm tired of the disrespect that's constantly happening to autistic individuals, right? But I have a message for Christian Israel and Timotheus, the one with the Greek name, right? I want to say this to you. I've been listening very, very clear. And Christian Israel, when you said, right,
yes,
that you felt, right, you felt useless and you didn't feel loved, I completely understand how you feel. And let me tell you this, brother, right? You got to remember, even though you have a disability, you still have ability. And that's all I've got to say for the rest of my talk.
yes, yes. Thank you, man.
Yes. Thank you, brother.
Very well said. Very well said.
Wow. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
Jesse.
Very well said.
Do you know
Jesse.
what? I have to admit, this has been going for a very long time. And like I said, Jesse has been promised for years and years and years. Everybody who knows me knows I'm not a person to say no to anything. And Paul knows me in the sense of Orlando. Everyone knows I don't take no for an answer, because I know that everybody's had a voice. Yes, I have cried. It's been, like I said, it's been hard for me because I've had to keep on fighting, but I have to thank all the people behind me that have pushed me. And I always got to say to everybody, as much as they may be atheists, it has been the church that have supported me in the background. They're the ones that started the second voice. So without the support from the church, my church brothers and sisters, I wouldn't be here. Those are the ones that did give me the strength to keep on moving and moving. But in regards to Jesse, like I said, you've been there for me from the day one with Orlando, because I tried to get Orlando back because I know he was hurting. So everybody around me has been hurting, and you just said it in one speech, and you spoke for everybody on this group what has been happening. Because as you said, when you talked about Black Lives Matters, from what you used to say, when you're talking about the Black community, you're talking about the failures of the Black autistic community, because the Black families are not coming forward to support the Black families, the Black professionals. So thank you, Jesse.
But that's why I urged, when at a time that you went to those awards in Birmingham, the Include Me 2 awards, because I was one on the panel.
I remember.
I literally, shut up, Bill, like, but she did this and this and that. I was literally on the table on all fours, just preaching, like, no, but she needs to win the award because of this, but because what Jesse just said just now, and everybody that said in this video, what was just said now, that you brought us all together to speak about our truths and to own our truths as well. You deserve that award so much, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to speak my truth, owning your truth, to get that award, because you deserve that award so much. And I want to thank you so much for bringing us all together. Thank you so much, sis.
Thank you.
I'm all shut up now.
Thank you. We're not finished yet. We still got to let TJ say something, and then we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, I'm here, so hopefully everyone can hear me. So, starting to hear people's views and opinions on where they see things and not. Now, as we know, with the current situation, there seems to be that the government only wants everyone to have one perspective on this. Now, as we know, that is a very dangerous thing. As we have seen, there has been numerous things out there from people both in the autistic community, the disabled community, and in general saying, well, hold on a minute, this doesn't really make sense. And for me, especially in lockdown, I'm classed as an essential worker. I work on the railway. I can't say what I do or what organisation I work for various reasons. But at the moment, I haven't even started because unfortunately with COVID and lockdown, it's meant there has been a major spanner in the works. No, for me, I've been chasing my employer. I've been trying to do things from home as much as I can. I've gotten to the point where I've stopped contacting them now because I just felt that I don't want to bite the hand that feedeth. And I know what people are going to say, well, you should be badgering them, you should be chasing them. But I think when it gets to a point where the people you're asking the questions don't even have answers or don't want to know or give you those answers, you have to step back. My sort of background is that I had a rough ride at school. I was slung into bottom set. I was seen as lazy, idle, was told you won't achieve anything, you'll be on benefits, you won't be doing anything in your life, you'll be in the gutter. And ironically for me, I left school with hardly any GCSEs. The best thing I was good at was PE. And ironically, they lost my exam paper. So I'm graded, unfortunately, but I knew that sport was my calling. And I went off to Devon for a couple of years and studied outdoor education, became a qualified instructor and started working mainly with children on LEA centres, working with children from Fairbridge, youth offending backgrounds, and especially those with disabilities. And when it came down to my instructor training, I was offered, do you want to do this route, which was the generic instructor profile route? And I was like, no, that doesn't really suit me. I'd like to go down the disability route. And they were like, what? Well, we've never done that. I said, let's just try it and see. And it worked. Especially for me, being on the spectrum myself, I'm autistic, I have ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, and I also have mental health issues. For me, the biggest barrier that I face is as soon as you diagnose a condition, so whether it be an employer or a medical professional or anything like that, these invisible roadblocks go up and up and up. It's like brick walls that go up, and it gets to the point where you have to sometimes stop fighting, but also be very sneaky in your approach about looking at back doors. I was quite lucky with several companies that I've worked for over the years on part-time basis, but my last post, which was through central government, was I approached their HR department informally rather than going through the normal channels because there wasn't a clear route for those who are applying with a disability. And I'm glad I went down that route. But I know from speaking to other people, and Vanessa knows that I am very brutal when it comes down to these things. There have been times that when we've had meetings with senior execs from the DWP, she's had to rein me in and go, stop, enough, leave her, because I'm a bit of a bulldog. I think that especially when you have witnessed these things firsthand, and the same proverbial rubbish comes out of the mouth, and you just think, hold on a minute, has someone just woken them up this morning and plugged the USB stick in? As someone put, I'm a kid from the 90s, I remember tape cassettes. It's like they just put a tape cassette in, press play, off they go, And I think as well that having done a variety of jobs over the years, from being an outdoor instructor to now mentoring, doing advocacy work, to having been to university 3 times. I've studied business management, sports management, outdoor education with a specialism in double psychology, and also doing a master's degree in special educational needs. However, I had to leave my MA because unfortunately I was pushed out. I jumped. There was no option for me. I had to jump. I would rather jump than be pushed. And it got to the point where I had started my MA. Unfortunately, my mother had died, and I went off the rails. The university in question used that as a weapon at me. I jumped before I was pushed. I would rather jump than be pushed. I'd rather go on my own terms. And they tried that big time. And they know that. And they've, for years, tried to cover it up. Even people who I've spoken to about it, they completely agree with me that it was completely wrong. And I would never go back there. They want me back? I've said no. And I think I was right to jump ship when I did. because that's when, for me, there was that change in my life. There's been times in my life where I've had to just stop and do a lot of things. Last year in October, I unfortunately lost my job due to major redundancies. And the icing on the cake was that I knew it wasn't my fault, but I felt like because it was the organisation I was working for was going under, I felt that, hold on a minute, I've done something wrong. But actually, even though there were redundancies going on, I was more focused on the kids at work, getting the programme delivered, which sounds really weird. You're losing your job, but you're more focused on just delivering. For me, I knew the inevitable was going to happen. I knew there was a date in the diary for people leaving the office permanently. I had my exit date arranged, and unfortunately, I'm just going to get on with it, deliver, and make sure the kids have a good time. Even now with my new job, I've had to do a lot of chasing. I've had to ask really awkward questions to the organisation involved. And it's really difficult sometimes because you don't want to bite the hand that feedeth, because the hand that feedeth is the hand that can taketh away. And I don't want to bite the hand that feedeth, because right now, this is the biggest job I've had since I've started working professionally since I was 13. I had a paper round and I started volunteering as a water sports coach, working with disabled kids all over the country. And it's crazy to think I would spend my weekends doing that, but I loved it. And it's weird. And I'm of the approach that I want to get people on side of the social model. For those who aren't aware, there are two models out there that currently exist when it comes to disability. There is the medical model, which is the deficit-based model. It's the can't do. Your child will not be able to do this. Your child will not be able to do that. However, I know we do have a medic probably listening in still. There are a lot of medics out there who are not with the social model. When we look at things now, there is still, and I'm going to say minority out there who are still on the old model and are still pushing the old model, which I think is wrong. Even, for example, things like DSM-5 and ICD-10 are not our models, I would say, in our right mind, because compared to what the Americans have, DSM-5 is an American model. Now, to my American cousins out there, perfectly fine for you guys out there. You know, it's good you have it, but in the UK, we need to now start adopting our own thing, because not every single case of autism, as we know, is not the same. It's not the same. And we need to start looking at disabilities in general with this can-do attitude. I mean, the Paralympics, I worked the Paralympics and I loved it. I had the chair of the International Paralympic Committee come up and speak to me every single day, and he was lovely. I worked in the office at London 2012 in the building with the big weeks, and I loved it. I was allowed to get on with stuff. I wasn't questioning what I was doing, and I was allowed to do it. Even in my role last year as a manager, I was allowed to get on with my job. I wasn't hindered. I wasn't stopped. I was only ever stopped if it was something that was outside of my remit, and I was very good at that. But I think now, having going from education now into the newer remit for me, which is transport and operations planning, is irrespective of what life does throw at you, you have to be a bulldog about it. You know, there are people out there who will say, your child is naughty, your child will not do this. Irrespective of what people think, their opinions shouldn't knock parents down, shouldn't knock teachers down. There are teachers out there who are still old school. There are teachers out there who are really good, for example, who I've met through various projects. And I think there needs to be a major change in the way that we think about disabilities, because as rightfully said, and I agree with what Jessie says, if you have a lifelong condition, it's not going to disappear. It is not going to go away with popping a little pill. It's not something that I can just get up in the morning, switch off. It's going to be there with me no matter what. Like most people, I have good days, I have bad days, and I have a little bit in the middle. You know, it's like having an old car. You know, you start it up some days, it won't go. Some days you start up, runs perfectly. Sometimes, you know, you get up in the morning, she'll run for 4 or 5 miles, and then you're stuck at the side of the road, the gasket's gone. You know, but for me, I think that, especially with the whole lockdown situation, we are seeing that there are people in our society who we did not know were out there. I moved over a year and a bit ago, and now I'm discovering people on my road who I've never met. And I've been here over a year where I live. I used to live in West Norwood, so I knew people for the best part of 30 years. And now I've moved to somewhere else. I'm still learning, but I'm still discovering there are people who I didn't think would live on my road. You know, it's scary that we've had to go through a pandemic to discover people out there who we wouldn't have known about. And I think for my sort of last point is, with this whole pandemic situation and you know, thinking about everybody involved, is that what is, you know, things like Paul's organisation, Vanessa's organisation, what NASI's doing, what everybody else is doing, there is going to be change. And it's probably worth now starting to think about what will post-COVID look like, because it's not going to be the same. And I know from my mentoring and advocacy work, especially with my young man I'm working with now, who is about to, you know, go for an upheaval battle, it is going to be an upheaval battle for everyone. But I think if we're so determined and so strong to actually fight this, we're stronger together, as it would be. So yeah, you know, thank everyone for all your stuff this evening, especially for Vanessa and Paul and everyone else who's organised this. And I think it's worthwhile having people on here. We can have these critical conversations and actually say to people, look, we are not to be silenced. We are here to be understood. We are here to listen. We are here to be appreciated. We are human beings, not a blooming, you know, number on a piece of bloody paper, as it would be. So yeah, thank you to everyone this evening. I will pop all my social media down and stuff. And I think Vanessa and Nicole want to do Q&A, I suspect.
I'm going to leave it to Paul and Nicole. I'm having a break. I've had a very busy Zoom couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I really don't know what to say. I'm just blown away with what I've learned tonight. I'm just literally blown away by the people's, all the different experiences in one place. And I agree exactly with what you said about this whole COVID thing, because for me, it's a very strange thing, because I've discovered that there are so many different public speakers out there that didn't know they were public speakers. And there are so many people out there that are going to become the voices of tomorrow, because we're going to need platforms like this where people communicate and learn. And so people have had to adapt in many different ways. Myself personally, being a person always outside of the house, have now created almost like my public speaking platform within the house, and still being able to reach out and speak to people and try and change as many lives as possible. So platforms like this are going to be the future. And they're going to need speakers like you guys, because the topic of autism and what Vanessa has done by bringing these voices together I don't even think she's aware of how powerful it is. I think she toys with the idea that, she's just doing something really little. But what she's doing, I've known Vanessa for a few years now, and she's the most consistent person I know in bringing the voice to people that would otherwise ignore it. And so let's not just forget the fact that we have to give Vanessa a big round of applause just for doing this and being consistent in doing this, because without her, these voices are not going to get heard. And
thank you, Vanessa.
She's consistently doing this, and the guys like Jesse, Max, and sorry, I did mean to say that Max, I was going to interject when Max was speaking there, because Max has actually starred in, because I actually make short films that raise awareness.
Yes.
And Max has actually starred in one of the films, which is coming out this month. So it's beautiful to have Max in there, knowing that Max is a fully able actor. And when you guys check out the film, you're going to be actually quite scared when you see his transformation in that. His actual role in that film is quite macabre. But that's something I learned about Max through Vanessa. And Vanessa raising these platforms where people can talk openly and find out what they do like doing and doing those things. That's how I met Max. That's how I met Jesse. you know? So it's important that we continue these types of talks. It really is. And it's also, because I'm looking at there and there's a little red thing saying record. It's important that these are recorded and shared to people who may be vulnerable. You know, there's so many people out there that need to hear this, to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and that they shouldn't be marginalized because, quote, they have a title. They should be able to just move forward and use their ability to do something. And I want to say something really important here, because now that we're talking about ability, and I'm not going to say disability, the same film that Max is in, it's called Karma, Crippled Karma. The main actor in the film has cerebral palsy. And he is the main actor, and he's a young boy that I mentored who wants to be a filmmaker, who I gave the role of the lead actor in this film. And so when we're talking about what people can and can't do, it's all a mindset. He has cerebral palsy. He speaks with a machine, but yet he's the star of the film. And so that's what we use as a way of highlighting that there's no such thing as disabilities. Everything's about ability. So thank you, Vanessa, for doing this. Thank you for allowing me to sit here going like this all night and listening firsthand to people that are going through this thing. Because, you know, it's been said a couple of times tonight, you know, after this COVID, things are going to change.
Yeah.
And those things that change mean that we have to change.
Yeah.
And if we're not going to change, we're not going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, so keep those voices screaming out there. Over there in Chicago, keep those movements going and keep the voices out there. Keep screaming, because there's nothing different. You know, your voices need to be heard. That's my opinion. That's my little rant for the night. Your voices need to be heard. I should actually go as far as saying, be heard more. So it's truly blessed to be here.
Want to ask any questions?
Yeah, well, thank you so much to everybody. And just to add to that, what I just feel really privileged and amazed about is to be part of this paradigm shift from actually learning and, you know, in the wider, you know, awareness that we're actually learning from people's real life experiences, from real, you know, from parent experiences, from young adults, from children, from, you know, that we're moving away more from this whole, we need to go to a professional and be told and how
No, yeah.
real voices in the real life, and learning from each other and coming together as communities, which I think is just so incredibly vital and important. You're all part of that, and thank you so much. So on that note, we do have a few questions. Some of them have kind of just been answered along the way and stuff like that, but you know, a lot of them are based around, I think, you know, because there's a group of young ish adults here, you know, also, so some people are wondering, how do you deal with the struggles of dating as someone on the spectrum, how that is, and also a few people are wondering, how can you get mentors? You know, how does it work? So I think people have been listening that some of you are mentoring others, or you know, that there is that opportunity out there. How can parents find out more about it, or, you know, work out how to support their young adults, maybe on a mentorship program, or even just on a personal note? And that's for me as well. You know, I work with lots and lots of young adults, and I'm always wondering, looking for areas where they can have a mentor or befriending, you know, someone that they can actually feel secure and confident in, and have as a safe place to go to, who also would understand them a bit more. So
I can answer this question if you want. So I went to this place called WAC. It's in North London. It's in Belsize Park. It's near Camden. That's why I started. This is where I did all my performing arts, and that's how Vanessa knew me. So it's a performing arts school, and a lot of ethnic minority kids go there to train, and I was one of them. But they got this program for kids that have disabilities, and there's like autistic kids, physical disability kids and stuff. And then we take them on residential trips as well. But the old objective is to get the high functioning ones who are a little bit more confident and stuff and want to take more responsibility and be more responsible and understand a lot more about society and stuff and whatnot, and be a mentor. We train them up to be mentors to the other kids that are things. So when we do our activities and stuff, they are like, we call them like buddies and stuff. So we train them up and we make sure that they know how to take them to the toilet, how to take a person to the toilet, how to make sure that they know how to wash themselves when they're going away, when we're on the residential trips, how to line up in line to get their foods. Do they understand what a safety measure is when they're doing activities, if they're going to do climbing or quad biking or sailing or whatever it is. So just check it out. It's wackarts.co.uk. I'll type it down, guys, but that's a really good place to go. That's in North London. I don't know about South London though, sorry.
No, everything seems to be you're in London.
Oh, nice.
Or West London.
I can answer the thing regarding dating. I would like to know about that.
Yeah, great. That's what I was gonna then. Yeah.
Alright, so another person I want to thank is also my mum and my father. Just make that close because she's watching right now. The thing regarding dating, what autistic individuals need to understand is they need to know that that happiness comes within first. Okay, that's the first thing that you got to understand, right? Because there's a lot of autistic individuals. I've noticed, I came across a few who thought that someone else will make them happy when in reality it's themselves, that they have to basically work on themselves to basically be happy, right? Because happiness is within. That's what some autistic individuals need to understand. Not all, just some. The thing is regarding dating, it's all about really self-improvement and becoming the best version of yourself. And basically understanding your weaknesses and your strengths regarding autism. And once you start addressing those things, dating won't be much of a problem. You understand? Because what a lot of people don't seem to understand is the solution of autism is actually in the name of autism, right? It's called a neurological disorder, right? So what you have to do is to get your brain in order, right? Neurological disorder, get your brain in order. So the solution is actually in the diagnosis and the name of it, which is neurological disorder. So that's how you really get around the dating thing. Another thing as well is if you want to date people of the opposite sex, things of this nature, learn to make friends. Most of the girlfriends that I've had and the relationships I've had, they tend to be more from social circles, like from people I've actually met. I would suggest that it depends if you are very good at safeguarding yourself on social media, I would recommend that you kind of refrain away from social media and actually have face-to-face interactions with a potential, let's say, a love interest or someone that you have a crush on or whatever they call it these days, right? So that's really that. And the reason why I'm qualified to speak about this is I was actually meant to do a workshop for Generate regarding this, relationships and dating as an autistic individual. But what happened is they basically rejected it, even though a lot of parents consented to me to actually do the workshop. They wanted me to do the workshop, but the people who I wanted to do it for, they basically rejected it, so I couldn't really do it. So that's how you really got to do it, right? It's all about self-improvement, getting in social circles, understanding yourself as an autistic individual, and you'll see you will get better at basically dating and having more social interactions and basically having relationships. Because I know a few autistic individuals who has relationships, who basically who've had relationships. I've had some really good relationships in the past. Some bad, but I've had some really good relationships too. That's all I've got to say.
Thanks, Jesse.
Welcome.
That's brilliant. All really, really useful. And if you're here, you can also look in the chat, and there's been some kind of really interesting comments in the chat as well, which I won't read them all out, but that give you some interesting perspectives and some nice sort of links and addresses from people. So do check out the chat if you haven't before you log off, just to grab people's social media details and some links, and also, you know, some interesting things that people have said. So amazing. Thank you. Vanessa.
Thank you, everybody. I know we went slightly over time.
Great.
It's because of Paul. I was trying to tell him
It's not me.
It's always Paul.
I'm just having such a wonderful time that who cares about time?
Yeah.
Eh? It's great.
We're timeless.
Believe me, Paul does it all the time. But I think
I've learned so much.
But Paul, have you noticed, when I've always said, when you're out there, you know, supporting my son as well, have you seen the big difference now? When I've spoke, sometimes people want to roll their eyes at me, but now you understand it's not just about one autistic person. You've got to look at different perspectives. One thing we didn't notice, that we didn't really talk about, which we've got to do, is those who are unable to speak for themselves. So there are autistic. So this is where you got the other end of the spectrum. Then you got the other end where Jackie's son obviously is dependent on his mum, and there's a lot of other mothers. But you got some autistic people that can still speak for themselves. Just like what is his name? The one that's in the film, the main lead film. The one that, the lead.
Max, you mean Max? Max, you mean?
The film that Max was in, your lead role. They've forgotten his name. They play.
Abdi.
Yes, so just like that, we need to bring those voices forward, because there's a lot of autistic people that may be non-verbal, but they still can deliver. So, and these
absolutely. I mean, just to give people the opportunity. You know, I'm blessed with the work I do, in the sense that I can make those decisions as to whether or not I cast somebody for that role. You know, and I tend to cast people that are not expected to be able to do that, and then they do it. You know, to cast somebody who has cerebral palsy is unheard of, but it works so well. To work with Max works so well. To have done interviews with Jesse, it works so well. To follow Vanessa's journey, everything works so well if you go against the grain. So it's really about going against that grain, going against the norm, and just knowing what you want to work. And that's, you know, that's part of what Vanessa does. She just goes with it, and she pulls together things like this, where, you know, especially for the community that don't want to identify autism, she will stick it in their faces, and they'll get fed up of her, but in the end they'll respect and listen to her. And that's how sometimes we have to get it done. So, you know,
I got Melissa and Jesse. They're the ones that are speaking out there now, which is good. They're speaking.
It's excellent and excellent. You got to hold Jesse back a bit, though.
Mr. Thanks, everybody.
It's been great.
Please, quickly, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Really quickly, we also have to remember. I have a really question for everybody, and it's really, really quick. If you can say in a sentence, and you saw yourself when you were younger, right? This question, what would you tell your younger self, or someone that's like kind of has the same exact experience of you? What would you tell them?
To run.
I know what I would say.
Ha ha ha! Come on.
I would tell my younger self that you are valuable.
Yeah.
You're valuable.
Yeah.
I think I'd say to myself that, you know, it's going to be a hard road ahead, but be prepared to fight. You know, it's a long way away, but, you know, be prepared to fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would tell myself I'm a king, because I've conquered all, and I'll conquer more, and I'm a king.
I think you've all inspired Jasmine, because with Jasmine, as I said, she's on a lot of has followed me for a while, and it's not nice when you go somewhere and she's always pushed aside, she's always ignored. She's got so much to offer. She's got a very big heart, as you can see, Jasmine Hearts. And she said, she's, as I said, Paul, I met her through Paul.
Yeah.
So again, you see the connection. It's her mother that connected me. It took 2 years for Paul to connect with me. So you can see.
There you go. But I just have to add something to that.
It's very frustrating.
You know what I'm going to say, Jasmine? It really, when I started the real journey in youth work, because I've been a youth worker for 30 years, but I only really started to get knee deep in the last 4 years or so. And Jasmine and Mum would turn up at every single talk I was doing. 100%. And sometimes they were the only people there. And she'll tell you that. Yeah. And I have so much respect for them being the only people there. But it just goes to show you, and I've always known that Jasmine, she wants to be a public speaker. And I think you will make an excellent speaker. Yeah. And I think from this day onwards, you need to do more recordings. Yeah. You need to do more practicing, because you are going to be the voice. Yeah. You really are going to be the voice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's not used to compliments. You're live, Jasmine. Can't get like you're smiling. The main thing is you're smiling. I don't usually see you smile a lot, and that's a good thing. So it shows this was good therapy for everybody that have joined today. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Everybody,
thank you.
Thank you. Catch up soon. We do a part 2 all day.
Thank you.
Can you take a picture of? Can you take a screenshot of this?
Oh, I've been doing that all the time.
Yeah, cool. Cool. Okay.
Go on then, look.
I'll do another one. Okay, I'll do another one. Yeah. Jesse and Christian, you want to come on?
Okay.
Screenshot.
On there. I see.
Oh.
Jesse?
What?
Where are you?
I'm here.
I'm here.
Oh, who's that? Oh, that's your. Oh, that's your. Oh, look at it. Thank you, guys. Oh, somebody wants to ask a question. Marsha wants to ask her a question.
Yeah. Last question, please. As a female single parent with a son, how does one find a mentor for a younger person? There seem to be mentors for young adults, but what about for pre-teens? Not so easy to find.
That's a great question. And I think part of the reason why it's kind of hard to find mentors that are peers of preteens or teens is because more preteens and teens with autism are coming out finally. So I would encourage the younger person, if they follow social media, to follow preteens who are doing well or showcasing their talent in whatever. Or let's say if you know of a preteen or somebody that's 10 years old even who are doing great things, is also on the spectrum locally. Find a way to connect with them and go from there.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. So I think, the question is, I think the key thing is stay connected, you know?
Stay connected.
Stay connected.
Yeah.
Stay connected.
You know what? I have to admit, though, if anybody can find Melissa on Twitter, Miss Taught, believe me, she's got some, again, she's not really said half of her story, but if I send you her YouTube that she did, then you're going to see a big, you'll see more. So like I said, thank you everybody for joining.
So just before everybody goes, I'm just about to keep you for another hour. Sorry about this. Just very quickly, Vanessa, make sure you pop that information in about foam, yeah? And what foam can offer in terms of starting up some small groups in there.
Definitely.
Yeah? Yeah, so we can make that work as well. It's a great place to have these sessions. And we will be going live soon, so you'll be able to go live and do your teaching from there soon.
No problem. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah? Okay.
All right, thank you, Susie. Thank everybody. Jackie.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
We can't see.
Bye. Bye.
Arrivederci.